natural Ligma processing, and welcome to our final report. Let's start by looking at the question generation module, and this is the overall pipeline for our question generation part. We will be breaking them down into pieces in later slides. First, let's look at the pre-processing work. The text from the article is present as paragraphs in order to make short, meaningful questions. We must separate out the sentences first. These sentences are then cleansed to remove text within bracket and check for proper punctuation and space within words. And after all these steps are done, we are ready for the next module. For the candidate generation, it takes as inputs the process sentences as well as the process heading candidates. The module ranks the sentences based on two heuristics, namely the presence of the relevant NER tag and the similarity of sentence with any of the heading candidates. And then after all these processes are done, we are ready to the question generation module. But before that, let's introduce the heading extraction and processing. So basically, we want to extract the important information from the heading, and then after we did some filtering, we remain only the important information from the heading, and then we are ready for the next modules. So for the WH question module, it first does the dependency parts of the sentence to figure out the subject and object phrases using several grammar rules. And then after all these pipeline, we are ready for the refine question part to check for the grammar correctness, and then we'll come back to revisit this WH question module. The refine question module does two tasks. First, it tries to reduce the length of the sentence to make a question more meaningful and coherent. Second, it checks for the grammatical correctness. And then after all these are done, we are ready for generate our yes or no question. It receives the input from the previous module, and then these are sentences on which grammatically correct WH questions were not framed. And then we'll also go back to the refine module to check for the grammar correctness. For the descriptive question, it receives input from the heading candidate module. It combines the article heading with a randomly sampled subheading in a question structure randomly sampled from the pool of structures to generate a descriptive question. It will generate questions like comment on the article heading in regards to the subheading. And this is an overview of our question sampler. What we do is that we follow a proportion of 2 to 8 to 1 for all these three question categories, and then we do the random shuffling for all these three questions. And this is a brief review of the tech stack that we use, and some of these technologies are also adopted in our answer generation part. Let's look into the question answering part of our system. This is a high-level pipeline for the answering part. This is a more comprehensive pipeline for the answering part of our system. And now let's start by breaking them down into pieces. For the passage retrieval task, the method that we use here is called the word mover's distance. What it tries to do is to find the traveling distance between documents, and the returning output is the top 5 candidate answer text. For the question input, we classify them into two major categories. The remaining questions are mostly descriptive or reasoning questions. For the person answer type, we start by looking for the noun phrases with correct NER text, and we only look for the noun phrases where the proper noun is the subject within the sentence. If it is not a subject, then just return a phrase. If there are more than one phrases with the correct NER text, then we will apply the novelty rule. The novelty rule simply stands for we're looking for the answer that is not in the query. If there are more than one phrases that are new here, we will look for the ones that are closest to the text root. For the location answer type, we did a similar task as what we did before, and this is a detailed explanation of how the novelty rule applies in here. For example, the Old Kingdom and Egypt are all correct phrases. However, Egypt is already appeared in the query, so the Old Kingdom should be the answer. For the time, quantity, and date answer type, we did a similar stuff as what we just discussed before. For the object answer type, we first reconstruct the query and to find a similar pattern in the candidate text, and from there we try to see if we can find the NER text in that part of the text. And this is an example of how it works. For example, we already identified a similar pattern here, and because we also apply the novelty rules here, so Pittsburgh would be the answer. Okay, so a quick recap for the WH questions answer types, and this is a generic logic flow for them. Okay, for the binary answer type, we first do the sentiment analysis, and then we find the threshold value that after we did some comprehensive test cases. Okay, for the description and reasoning answer type, we find the top candidate text and then restructure it to make it sound grammatically correct. So this is the final pipeline for our QA system. I hope you enjoy our QA system, and thank you.